Yeah, well, I've been speaking about those reports for a while, actually. I've done some radio interviews on them some time ago, but now I understand they've been confirmed by the US Navy as being accurate reports. No surprise whatsoever. UFOs is the issue of our age, and it's not new to our age. I mean, it's a very ancient, as we know, phenomenon in the earliest scripts on Earth, the Hindu scripts, the Greek legends, the Bible, and so on, and many other places. But in this age, and I'm talking about the 20th century really, we understand space travel, we know about aircraft, satellites, and so on. And so people are starting to see this phenomenon, and this is just the latest in many cases that have happened over the last many decades. And they can see that this is something. But what I think now is you've got a lot of people who want to really know about UFOs. It doesn't necessarily mean they believe in them. I mean, I do, you do, but they just think this is a phenomenon we should all know about, and I'd agree with that. And you need to know about the main people, the main figures in the UFO movement. You could name George Adamski, you could name a few other names, but one name I think everyone should know about now is the name Dr. George King. And Dr. King's contacts, which started in 1954, of course, were right at the beginning, the very earliest days of this so-called flying saucer movement as it was then. And of course, he always, from the very beginning, and this differentiates him from some of the figures in the movement, put out the spiritual message. He always linked it to spirituality. And his life, I don't know of anyone who even claims, there are other contactees, but anyone who's claimed to be on call 24 hours a day for over 43 years every day, other than Dr. King. That's why I was honoured to co-author this book, The King Who Came to Earth, published very recently, last month in fact. And this is really, for the first time, the biography, the story, the true story of his life in full. And again, I think anyone who's interested in UFOs and wants to know about them, I would recommend them to read this book. And may I say, I get no royalties from this at all, and I've got no interest in from a sales point of view. But I do believe they should study it, read it, and then form your own conclusion. I'm not asking you necessarily to believe it. You might do, you might not. You might keep an open mind, hopefully, but it's certainly something I think you should know about.
Definitely, definitely. And I think as time goes on, more and more people have these sightings, more and more reports come out, people are gradually being led towards a spiritual approach to UFO phenomenon. And Dr. King was definitely a pioneer of that.
I fully agree. And I will say, to be positive, I think there is a change in that if you go back to the period when he started, and really right through the 60s and the 70s, there was this massive division between what they call the nuts and bolts ufologists, who just wanted to know about physical apparatus, physical phenomena, radar tracking, and all the elements, photography and other evidence. And they distanced themselves from the spiritual researcher. And I think that's changed. I think, in my experience, having lectured also in America at MUFON and organisations like that, and given talks over here and in Norway, now even sort of that type of researcher recognises the importance of spirituality as a very significant strand in the study of UFOs. And at the top of that, I think, is Dr. George King, just from his record. In this book, The King Who Came to Earth, we cover the entire life, actually, and mission of Dr. George King. And one aspect of that was in the 1950s, when he had his first contacts, that he was speaking very openly about the need for governments to come clean. He said they were lying. He held a rally, for example, in 1958 in Trafalgar Square in London, demanding that the government tells the truth about flying saucers, as they called them then. He received communications, for example, from an intelligence known as Mars Sector 6, saying that flying saucers are real, they're friendly, they're extraterrestrial, and he put this information into the public domain. And for decades, and even sometimes today, governments have lied about this and covered up the truth. And that's why, if it's true, that the US Navy really is coming out and confirming UFO footage now. This is a fantastic development, and it really vindicates the pioneering work of, among others, I would say at the forefront in those days in this country, Dr. George King.